Hi guys, and welcome to Crypto Exposed. Okay, got an article here for you, and I just thought this was an interesting thing to go through because especially where we are obviously within the market right now, I think this is something that guys might want to see because this could be an indicator that things could possibly be looking up. But there's still definitely a positive to this regardless of whether, we are going to go back up from here within like the next couple of days or whatever. There's definitely a positive in this. So the article says, XRP whales holding 10 million to 100 million tokens add 1.23 billion XRP in 2026 despite 43% price crash. Okay, and then there's just another article that I want to cover as well that's going to just add to what it says here. So it says here, XRP and UPL hits deep capitulation levels that marked past market bottoms. Okay, so obviously I'm going to talk about both of these, and then we're going to obviously wrap it both together and show you like why this could possibly be, the chance of things to be turning more to the upside. Okay, so let's get into the first article then. More large holders enter the group. The increase in holding has not only come from existing whales buying more XRP. On-chain data also shows that more addresses have entered the 10 million to 100 million XRP range. Specifically, the group had 301 addresses at the start of 2026. Today, it has 313. The number initially fell to 285 in mid-February before recovering. It then climbed steadily to 322 addresses in early July and later dropped to the current 313. Despite this year's increase, the number of addresses remains below the group's all-time high of 351, which it reached in October 2025. Still, the rise from 301 to 313 addresses show that the group has expanded since the beginning of the year. Okay, yeah, I'm going to keep that one short and sweet there. I'm not going to go through any more of the article, but the point that I'm going to just make here is this. So, when it comes to whales, right, whales are generally like they're bigger than the average retail holder, right? These are the guys that have got like a lot of money to invest. And so the thing with these guys is they're not like retail in the sense of they're not erratic with their buying and selling, their trading activity, right? When they buy for long periods of time. When they sell, it's not usually like, there's been a dip in the market and then they just sell completely off, that kind of thing. They're a lot more methodical, right? So if you think about the retail holders, I'll be honest with you, with the retail holders, they're usually they've not got big money, right? And so when they invest, they panic sell and they also FOMO buy. Right, so like you see, for example, a dip in the market, retail investors just think, oh god, the sky's falling, let me get out right now. They see a green candle and it goes up a few percent, they think it's going to go to the moon and want to invest and get a quick buck. So they are really like erratic with how they trade. They're not really thinking, and this isn't obviously every retail investor. I'm classed as a retail investor, I'm not a whale, but I don't trade like that, but I'm talking about like the very generalization of like an average retail holder. It's a thing of, that they're just trying to make money, and a lot of them don't even come in looking to do research or anything like that. And that's why when you see, for example, a bull run, that's what brings in a lot of the average retail, buyers, because the market starts to boom. It gets out that they're hearing that the crypto market is booming. They all start coming in again, hoping that they're going to make some money. And then they start investing in all the green candles, right? And then obviously if they see a red candle afterwards with one of the cryptos, they think, oh, quick, let me get out. That's the wrong one. And that's what it is. They're not really doing proper research or investing, like they really should. They're just hoping to get in and make some quick money. But in all honesty, they really help make bull runs because they're the ones who are coming in and just throwing money at any and everything. So they help build up a lot of the, the accumulation of value. So obviously, as you see a crypto going up, they see that green candle. So then they start buying into that as well, which helps build up the value because the price starts going up, adding to the buying pressure. So to be honest with you, they have their place. Like I'm not saying that, to knock it because it kind of helps us in that regard to get the value that we want. But it's not really a great way to be investing. Right, it's just not a smart way to be investing. So when you think about these whales, if they're here still buying, what this means is, they still believe long term at some point that the value is going to come because these guys have got money. they've got a lot of options on what they can invest in. They don't need to invest into, just XRP and things like that. They've got money. Like, they're already going to be probably rich, more than likely. So they can afford to invest into other things. So if they're still investing, that's like an indicator to show you that they still believe in XRP long term, which, I understand, because I've covered a few things recently which would show you, like, in terms of the adoption that's happening, it would make sense that value is still going to come long term. That's what I believe. Like, I don't know how long it's going to take, but if we look at just the activity that's happening, we're literally seeing adoption occurring right before our very eyes, and we're not even at a point where we've got regulations yet. I think that's going to change everything, to be honest with you. But yeah, like, to me, the whales are the ones who are a bit more smart with their investing. They don't just buy in, and as soon as it dips, they just sell off. Like, they're a lot more patient, that kind of thing. So, they're going to be investing for, the long haul, because they don't desperately need the money either, right? Like, they're not like gambling with their last bit of life savings or anything like that, or, what they earned from their last week's work or anything. These guys have got money, so they can just park it in XRP and wait. So again, this doesn't mean necessarily that the market's going to go off tomorrow, but what it tells you is that they still have a long-term mindset at some point, thinking that XRP is going to go up in value. So could it be that this is the mark of things starting to turn up? Possibly, but it doesn't guarantee that, right? So moving on to the next part here. XRP NUPL hits deep capitulation levels that marked past market bottoms. So in regards to NUPL, what is that? So that's net unrealized profit / loss. So in this regard, as it's saying here, this is usually marked past bottoms. So, we're in a real deep capitulation level that normally is telling you we're at the worst. I'm not here to say whether that's right or wrong. I'm just showing you this is what data is telling us. It would make sense, because looking at the current price of XRP, like, if we're talking about the end of a bull run kind of thing, which I don't think XRP had a proper bull run, because if you're telling me that $3 was the highest it was going to reach, I just don't believe that. Plus, I do believe that when we had that liquidation event in October, when Bitcoin was at $126,000, I believe that was a manipulated event. There's enough evidence to prove that. So I do feel like we were cut short of what we should have had in terms of a proper bull run and alt season. Now, are we still going to get that, towards the end of this year or next year? That's what some analysts say. I don't know. Some analysts also say it could be 2030 now. I've got no idea, right? So I'm not here to, try and tell you guys, this means, as of next week, we're going to start moving up. I don't know, but it's saying here that this is marked past market bottom. So if we're talking historically, it would indicate that we're at the bottom. I will say that makes sense, because, the drop from where it was to like $1, like, you don't typically go down to like the exact same amount it was before the last big run. So I think it was like 50 to 70 cents before it went up to $3. So you wouldn't typically go back down to that kind of low again. Like, if you think about Bitcoin, Bitcoin's kind of been sitting around like $60,000 to $50,000 now. You wouldn't really expect it to go back down to like $20,000, after it's been reaching these newer highs. It basically makes higher lows then. So I wouldn't expect it to go that low, but I can't say for sure, I don't know. But that's why I would say that this makes sense, that this would be the bottom. Now, I will also just say this, when I do say this is the bottom, I'm not literally saying to the cent. So if, for example, it dropped a few cents, yes, when we talk about a bottom, you're not saying like that is the exact bottom, because you can never pinpoint that. So it could still drop like, 5 cents, 10 cents or whatever. That is still possible. But what we're saying is, like, it shouldn't drop dramatically from this level, right? It shouldn't drop like another 50 cents or 80 cents. Like, that shouldn't really happen. So we will see. But the thing that I just wanted to say here is, look, one, if this is the bottom, we're at the worst of it now. I know obviously everybody's been worrying and stuff like that, but if this is the bottom, then it can only go up from here at some point. So that's obviously the positive thing. And the other thing is that, the whales, they're like a good indicator to show you in terms of confidence, in my opinion, right? Because if the whales are still buying, that means they still believe in this. And if they're putting the big money in, like, they're not buying small amounts of XRP, they're buying big amounts. So for them to be buying that type of amount of XRP, like billions, that tells you that they still believe that this is going to go higher at some point. So they've not all left, you know, they're not all just selling off. They're thinking, yeah, we still believe that there's going to be more value to come here. So that's a positive indicator to show you that, you know, the smart money, as they call it, they're still investing. So I'm not here to say how long it's going to take. I genuinely don't know that. Like, as I say, I've seen some analysts say towards the end of this year into next year. I've seen some say 2030. I couldn't say. I'm not here to try and pretend to you guys like I have the answers. I don't. I just hope it's as soon as possible, like you guys. But we've got here whales buying at this point, still buying during these current price levels. And we've got something here where we've got data that says, you know, going historically, this would normally say to the bottom. So it could be that give it some time and then we start to move back up again. Fingers crossed. I don't know for sure, but fingers crossed. That would be great. I really do hope, you know, we do get it this year, obviously for the reasons of wanting to make money, but also, like, if let's just say this don't occur, we're going to be in a very confusing point in the market, because it's going to be very hard to look at historical data to use charts, right? Because when we was looking at the previous data, when XRP ran up to $3 at the end of 2024, when that happened, like, that was around a 4-year cycle. So it was kind of like, whether people believe in the 4-year cycle or not, it was running like clockwork. It was running how you would expect it to run. It was anticipated for the bull run to happen around that time. So if, let's just say, this doesn't happen at the end of this year to next year, we're in very unprecedented times in terms of how do we use previous data then to indicate where things are going now. Like, to be honest with you, it's kind of like you have to throw all that away, because nothing is working the way it historically did. So it will put a lot of confusion into the market, in my opinion, if that is the case. So what some people are saying is it's because of the global lockdown that we had. I don't want to say certain words because of YouTube and whatnot, but you know what I'm talking about. Some are saying, you know, back in 2019 when that happened, that's caused delayed expansion that we would normally have. That's plausible. That's plausible, but whether that's accurate or not, I don't know. So we will see, but we've got this information here that's telling us this. If that is accurate, then hopefully we do start to move up, but if not, all bets are off, basically. So yeah, I thought I'd just show you this, because my thing about this is, what I will say is, for me, when I do look at XRP and crypto in general now, I am looking a bit more long term anyway. Like, again, I don't know if it's going to happen this year or next year, so I'm trying not to just put all my hopes up on that, because I don't want to get all excited and then it doesn't happen. But I do think at the end of the day, like, long term, the value is going to come. So if it's not next year, maybe it's the year after that, maybe the year after that, maybe 2030, whatever, right? But I do believe at some point the value is going to come regardless. That's what I truly believe. So I'm going to wait as long as it takes, because, you know, I do believe it's going to come at some point, and I'm just going to wait to see it through. That's my personal perspective. But you've got things here that would indicate that other people do believe in XRP still long term, and we've also got data here saying that it looks like we're in the worst of it right now, so the only way is up from here, basically. So let's see what happens, but I'll leave it there. If you did like this video, please remember to like, comment and subscribe so you can be updated for future XRP content, and don't forget to hit the notification bell so you can be alerted on when I do drop a new video. Thank you very much for watching this, and I'll see you all on the next one.